Hey everyone, thank you very much for joining us for another story here at Annie Narrates. The title for this one goes like this. I went to my dad's funeral to see him for the last time I ever could. There, I got a call from my mother-in-law asking me to return back home ASAP because hubby has gotten into an accident. So I drop everything and leave only to find my mother-in-law and hubby both tell me that it's a prank. So I pranked them back. A 32 female had been married to my husband Adam, 35 male, for about 2 years now. It all started at a friend's party. I was sipping on my favorite strawberry soda, and there he was, with a big smile on his face. Adam, with his curly hair and friendly eyes, made me feel comfortable right away. Little did I know that this meeting would change my life forever. Our first date was like a scene from a romantic movie. Adam took me to the local amusement park, where we laughed on a roller coaster, ate cotton candy, and even won a fluffy teddy bear at the shooting game. It felt like we were in our own little world of happiness. As time passed, our love grew stronger. Adam and I shared countless movie nights, pizza dinners, and long walks in the park. He surprised me with a bunch of my favorite flowers on our 3-month anniversary, showing his sweet side. His caring nature made every moment special, and I knew he was the one for me. One magical evening, Adam decided to take our relationship to the next level. He planned a picnic at the spot where we had our first date. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow on everything around us. Adam got down on one knee, holding a small velvet box. My heart raced as he asked those 4 life-changing words. Will you marry me? Tears of joy filled my eyes as I said yes, feeling like the luckiest person in the world. Our wedding day was a dream come true. Surrounded by friends and family, we exchanged vows and sealed our love with a kiss. The dance floor was alive with laughter and music, creating memories that will last a lifetime. Our first dance as a married couple was to our favorite song, making the moment even more special. Now, in our first year of marriage, life is filled with adventures. We faced challenges together, but our love and friendship grew. Adam used to surprise me with breakfast in bed on lazy Sunday mornings, and we created new traditions like cooking dinner together every Friday night. In my journey with my hubby Adam, there's this one thing that sometimes makes me go, You see, he's what you might call a mama's boy. Being close to your mom is great, but there are times when I feel like there's a trio in our relationship. Me, Adam, and his mom, Brenda. Even before we got hitched, I could sense this 3-crowd vibe. It's not that I don't like his mom. She's a nice lady with good intentions. But sometimes, it's like she's the invisible referee in our relationship, blowing a whistle whenever things get a bit tricky. Now, let me tell you about our wedding planning adventure. It was like diving into a pool with 3 sets of opinions and doing cannonballs. Brenda had her own ideas about flowers, decorations, and even the menu. I found myself nodding and smiling through many discussions, even when I had different thoughts bouncing around in my head. Compromises became my middle name during those times. There was this one incident that had me scratching my head. We were deciding on the wedding cake. A crucial decision, right? I had this dream of a chocolate cake with strawberry frosting, but Brenda had her heart set on a classic vanilla cake with buttercream. Adam, being the peacemaker, suggested having both layers, but the cake turned into a mix of flavors that left everyone confused, including the poor baker. Another time, Brenda wanted to choose the flowers for the venue. I envisioned a sea of sunflowers, bright and cheery. Brenda, however, preferred a more traditional arrangement with roses and lilies. In the end, we compromised again and had a mix of both. But the floral clash led me feeling like I was in a garden identity crisis. Even after the wedding bell stopped ringing, Brenda's involvement didn't take a vacation. Date night sometimes felt like cozy dinners for 3. One time, Adam and I were planning a weekend getaway, just the 2 of us, and Brenda dropped hints about feeling lonely. So, our romantic escapade turned into a family retreat, complete with game nights and mom-approved activities. But I love Adam to the moon and back. Every compromise felt like a tiny puzzle piece fitting into our big love picture. There were moments when I wished for a bit more us and a bit less us plus his mom. But over the past 2 years, I have felt like things have changed between us. It's like our relationship took a detour, and I can't help but feel a bit lost at times. Adam, who used to be the king of consideration and the superhero of compassion, has become a bit like a distant planet in our little universe. It's not like there's a glaring problem we can point our fingers at. It's more like a subtle shift in the winds of our togetherness. He doesn't shower me with the same attention he did in the beginning. You know, those surprise hugs and sweet notes? They've become as rare as finding a four-leaf clover. Now, I can't help but notice this uneasiness settling in, especially when Brenda, Adam's mom, is in the picture. And trust me, Brenda is around a lot, like a permanent feature in our daily sitcom. Remember those cozy movie nights we used to have? Well, now it feels more like a parallel play than a shared experience. Adam used to pick out the silliest comedies or the mushiest romances just to see me smile. But lately, it's all about action movies and documentaries that, he knows, put me to sleep faster than counting sheep. And then there are the family dinners. Don't get me wrong, I like family time, but it feels like I am the invisible person at the table. Adam and Brenda get caught up in discussions about family history, hometown memories, and inside jokes that leave me feeling like an outsider at my own dinner table. One incident that stands out is our anniversary. I had these grand plans, a romantic dinner, some sweet words, and maybe even a dance in the living room. But as the day approached, Adam seemed preoccupied. When I brought up our plans, he casually mentioned having dinner with Brenda too, as if it were just another regular day. My heart sank a bit, and our anniversary turned into a shared family dinner rather than the intimate celebration that I had envisioned. Even our bedtime routine has taken a turn. We used to share stories about our day, discuss our dreams, and fall asleep wrapped in each other's warmth. Now it's more about Adam scrolling through his phone, catching up on messages, and sometimes falling asleep without a word. It's like our nighttime connection has turned into a solo act. I have tried talking to Adam about these feelings, but it's like he's unaware of the shift. It leaves me wondering if he's caught up in a different orbit, and I am struggling to find my place in his universe. The uneasiness creeps in whenever Brenda is around, like a silent guest in our conversations. A few days ago, my father Michael, 63, passed away after battling prostate cancer for more than a year. It was tough to see him go through all that pain, and it's even tougher to imagine life without him. You see, my mom passed away in a car accident when I was really young, so it was just us against the world. Dad became my everything, my playmate, teacher, and the one who tucked me in at night. He was the guy who made the best pancakes on Saturday mornings and the one who cheered the loudest at my soccer games. Growing up, we had this unbreakable bond. Dad was my go-to person for advice, comfort, and the occasional ice cream treat after a tough day. Losing Mom was hard for both of us, but Dad made sure I never felt alone. He became my rock, and together, we faced the storms of life. Fast forward to last year, and things took a tough turn. Cancer barged into our lives, disrupting the peace we had. Dad, who I always saw as this invincible force, started showing cracks in his armor. It was like watching Superman lose his strength, and I felt helpless. Seeing him weak was the hardest part. Dad, who could fix anything with a smile, now struggled to get out of bed. The roles reversed, and suddenly, I became the one taking care of him. It was challenging to watch the man who lifted me when I fell, now needing a helping hand himself. One vivid memory that sticks with me is the day Dad decided to share his favorite childhood stories. It was like he wanted to pass on the baton of memories. As he spoke, I could see the twinkle in his eyes, a mix of nostalgia and a desire to leave a piece of himself behind. It was a bittersweet moment, knowing that these stories would become treasures to hold on to. Living just 20 minutes away from my dad meant I could visit him every day. We shared stories, laughed, and made each other's day brighter. But then, I got that call from his caretaker delivering the heartbreaking news of his passing. My whole world shattered in an instant, and suddenly, everything felt so lonely. Thankfully, my husband was right there with me. He didn't hesitate. He went with me to face the difficult task of dealing with the aftermath of my father's passing. But let me tell you, dealing with all the arrangements and the reality of it all was incredibly stressful. It felt like a whirlwind of emotions, sadness, loneliness, and the weight of responsibilities, all hitting at once. Having my husband by my side was a comfort, but the journey through that tough time was still one of the hardest things I've ever faced. The day he left us, it felt like the world paused. The house echoed with the absence of his laughter, and I found myself reaching for the phone to share some news, only to remember he wouldn't be on the other end. Grief is a heavy backpack to carry, and I'm still figuring out how to navigate this new normal without my superhero by my side. Planning my dad's funeral became a heavy task, and I found myself facing it alone. Each decision, from choosing the flowers to arranging the service, felt like a mountain to climb. On the day of the funeral, my heart felt heavy, and words seemed to escape me. It was like I was carrying a suitcase of emotions that I couldn't unpack. Adam, my husband, was dealing with his own battle of sickness. He couldn't be there with me on that tough day. Brenda, Adam's mom, stayed back at our home to take care of him. While I understood Adam needed support too, I couldn't help feeling an added layer of solitude. In the midst of grief, I had to navigate the funeral proceedings, trying to make the choices my dad would have appreciated. I selected his favorite flowers, sunflowers, bright and cheery, just like his spirit. The service was a mix of tears and smiles as friends and family shared stories about the wonderful person he was. Despite the emotional weight, there was a sense of satisfaction in giving my dad a farewell that reflected his essence. It was a bittersweet journey, the heaviness of loss mixed with the warmth of cherished memories. After the eulogy, while we were serving food and talking to relatives, my phone buzzed. It was Brenda, Adam's mom. Her voice sounded urgent as she told me something that made my heart skip a beat. She said that Adam had gone to the pharmacy for some medications. On his way back, he got into an accident. My hands trembled as I clutched the phone, and my mind started racing with worry. Brenda needed me to come back immediately. I quickly excused myself from the gathering, my heart pounding like crazy. I asked Brenda if Adam was okay, my voice shaky. She told me he had multiple bruises and might have internal bleeding. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt a lump in my throat, and a rush of fear took over. I hurriedly explained the situation to my relatives, and they were understanding, offering their condolences and support. Rushing back to my car, I felt a whirlwind of emotions. Grief for my dad, worry for Adam, and a strange feeling of being caught between sorrow and concern. As I drove back to our home, thoughts raced through my mind. What if the accident was severe? What if Adam needed more than just medications? The road seemed longer than usual, and every traffic light felt like an eternity. But when I reached home, I was shocked to see that Adam was just sitting on the couch playing on his PS5, and Brenda was right next to him, just casually using her phone. I asked Adam what happened and if it was okay. He and Brenda burst out laughing and told me that there was no accident and this was a prank. I was confused for a moment, and I asked them if they were serious. They said yes, saying that I had been so busy and sad the last few days that they wanted to cheer me up with this prank. Now, picture me standing there, jaw dropped, trying to make sense of what just happened. I asked Adam if he's okay, bewildered and confused, and then they dropped the bomb. There was no accident. It was all a big, elaborate prank to cheer me up. I couldn't believe it. I had been through such an emotional roller coaster with my dad's passing, and here they were, pulling a prank on me. I felt a mix of emotions, confusion, frustration, and a bit of relief that Adam was, in fact, okay. I looked at them, still processing the whole thing, and asked if they were serious. They nodded, still chuckling, like they just won a comedy show. They explained that they noticed that I had been really busy and sad the last few days, and they thought a prank would lighten the mood. Now, I appreciate a good laugh, but this was a bit much. I felt like I had just stepped into a weird episode of a sitcom. I tried to see the funny side, but it was hard. I mean, who pranks someone with such serious news? So there I am, standing in the middle of the room, my anger building up like a storm. I start yelling at Adam, telling him that he's a super immature prick. I couldn't believe they thought this was the right time for a prank. It felt like a slap in the face on the last day I was going to see my dad. My heart was already heavy with grief, and now they added this weird, unnecessary layer of frustration. I demanded to know if Adam was really sick or if this was just an elaborate prank. The laughter from Brenda and Adam didn't stop, and it fueled my anger even more. I felt like they didn't understand the gravity of the situation, that this was the day we were saying our final goodbyes to my dad. The room felt tense, and my words were sharp. I couldn't comprehend how they thought this prank was appropriate, especially on a day that was already so emotionally charged. It wasn't about the prank. It was about the timing, the insensitivity, and the lack of understanding. At that moment, I was overwhelmed with a mix of emotions. Anger was at the forefront, but underneath it all, there was hurt. I felt betrayed and let down by two people who should have been supporting me. Instead, they turned what was supposed to be a day of remembrance into a bizarre episode of confusion and frustration. As I continued to express my anger, I could see that Brenda and Adam were still finding the whole thing amusing. It added fuel to the fire. I couldn't fathom how they could be so oblivious to the pain that I was feeling. It was like they were in their own little world of laughter, detached from the reality of the situation. In the aftermath, as the adrenaline of anger settled, a heavy sadness took its place. This was the last day I was going to see my dad, and it felt overshadowed by this bizarre and insensitive prank. The weight of the loss became even more heavy, and I couldn't shake off the feeling of disappointment in the way the day had unfolded. I didn't know what else to do, so I just left the house and went back to the funeral. Most people had already left, and there were just a few cousins and my dad's brother left. I told them exactly what happened, and they were all stunned. I know I didn't have to tell them, but I had a really long day, and I just broke down. The worst part is that I felt so ashamed and humiliated after telling them. The wake was at my dad's house, and I was surrounded by so many memories. I was sad, angry, grieving, and more. After everyone had left, I was all alone in the house, which was now in my name. I was so angry at Adam and Brenda, I had never felt this rage before inside me. So I decided that I was going to teach them a lesson. I then and there decided that I didn't want to see Adam's face again. I called my friend and asked for her help so that I could do this. I went back home, and I didn't say a word to Adam. Brenda had already left by then. He apologized to me and said that he just wanted to distract me for a while, but I didn't respond to him. I had never felt so broken as I felt at that moment. How could I have not seen this before? Just how selfish and inconsiderate this man was. He had always just put his needs above mine. I was so in love that I refused to see anything else. So I didn't mention anything about our background. The house we are currently living in is in my name, as I bought it before our marriage. Adam is a hotel manager, and he had a conference planned 2 months later. It was a long time, but I waited. I was patient. The day he left, I put my plan into motion. I had already been showing the house to people, and a lovely couple made an offer 2 weeks ago. The house was already in escrow by the time Adam left. Now, all I had to do was pack up all my stuff. I hired a service and called up a friend of mine to help me with this. And then, I left all my stuff at a storage facility and moved into my dad's home. When the weekend was over and Adam came back, he was welcomed into an empty house. I had left a note attached to our room's door saying, "Hope you and your mother enjoy this prank," along with a house sale document. I don't know his exact reaction, but I like to picture him throwing tantrums on the floor of our old house. My phone started blowing up, and I had multiple calls from him. I didn't intend to talk to him, but I wanted to sweat him a little. After around his 10th call and 27th message, I finally picked up this call. He immediately started swearing at me and asking me what I was doing. I told him that this was a huge prank. Now you get to go and live with your mom. He told me that he wanted to see me, and I told him that I would, with my lawyer. Now the reason why I'm writing this today is that some of my cousins think that I am taking this too far. What he did was wrong, but not enough to get a divorce. I disagree and believe that it was the exact time he showed me who he truly was and why I should run far away from him. So I want to ask you guys, am I the a-hole for leaving my husband after he pranked me on the day I saw my father for the last time? So, the tantrums didn't just end up on a call. He found out that I was staying at my dad's place and showed up at my door the same day. He kept crying and begging me to open the door. I let him in and talked to him, but I was done with him. None of his crying was having an impact on me. What he did to me on that day turned off the switch inside me. I also kept receiving calls from Brenda, my mother-in-law, but I didn't bother to pick them up. I don't think I owe her an explanation. I did file the divorce, and let's see how the settlement goes. I am a little worried that they will try to drag it out. Since I earn more than him, and now that I also have inherited Dad's house and other investments, I might have some trouble. But thankfully, I have a prenuptial agreement with Adam, and guess who encouraged me to get it? My dad. Even after he's gone, he continues to help me. My husband Adam has lost his mind. I don't know what to do. He refuses to hire a lawyer and insists that we can work this out. My relatives also keep forcing me to give this a second try. Adam keeps telling me to get counseling, but I told him that I don't want to give our marriage a second chance. He keeps bothering me at home, in my office, with my friends, and with my relatives. I would love a few suggestions. Let me tell you about my dear mother-in-law from hell. After her son was unable to sway me into getting back together with him and letting go of the divorce, she came straight to my home to quote-unquote talk some sense into me. This one thing that really bothered me was that she bought me food, and it was actually meat, when she knows that I am a vegan. She probably wanted to show me that she cared, but she didn't even remember my preferences. Even though I was pissed, I was completely respectful. She tried to take all the blame for the incident and said that it was her idea, and she forced Adam to play along with it. I told her that even if it was, he should have never gone along with it. After going back and forth for a few minutes, I told her that it was time for her to leave. You should have seen her face. It was all red with anger. However, one thing that did turn out well from this was that Adam is now finally cooperating with the divorce. I think he now finally understands that we are done and that there is nothing he can do to get me back into his life. I really hope everything goes smoothly from now on. Thank you to everyone for their support and suggestions throughout this. And that was it for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Smash that like button for me and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again. We'll be seeing you in the next one.